Hey everyone, today we're finishing our defense rush, now getting all the way to boom cannons, can max those out right away, and today should also be the last day with our limited offense, because now our next steps is getting flares, so should only get better from here. As far as our defense goes, we can talk a bit about that. Found this to be the best base if you don't have boom cannons yet, because especially all those people without flare, you're kind of forced to one go on the right side, and then kind of get stuck over here. The way the cannons are in a lot of these compacts is you want to kind of wrap buildings around. That way they all go in one spot, mortar shoot them, do some splash damage, and they just die. Especially these two cannons across the gap because only a few tanks can shoot them across, and they can pick them off too. Some people were talking about the base we were running yesterday, so we can try seeing that how we would hit it. And in most cases it's just a bunch of tanks from one side, so in this case 6, and then just trickling in a few warriors. The warriors are one to clear mines, but mainly to distract some other cannons, and try and do medkits so you can get both the warriors and the tanks. Even a few of them can distract cannons for just a few shots. Otherwise, just hope that the rest of the cannons don't kill everyone, and go from there. And with boom cannons, we're going to be running a base like this, buildings a little spread out to try to counter melons, and also all 4 engines towards the back to help against other people without flare. And again, since right now we really have no gunboat abilities, flare is going to really help on dealing with pretty much any base. Even one like this, we can almost never get this engine, have to go all the way around, but with flare we can go from this side and have a whole different hit. Now this guy has 25 building health and 30 building damage, so I think we'll just do a bunch of tanks from one side, and then trickle in a few warriors for both distracting cannons and shock mines. So here we'll do all of our tanks right here, want to kill a cannon fast, and then just wait a bit until we start needing warriors. Would love to have rifles too in these type of attacks, mainly because, well, now we have 8 warriors, but rifles you have triple the amount. So the good news is whenever we do have melons, then we get rifles too. Heavies are another meat shield, but they aren't really on the main path, so we'll get them eventually, maybe when we want to consider heavy choppers. But on these bases right now, at least until we get flare, we can just drop troops and hope to get a good time. Mainly relying on our boom cannons and base to get the job done. That's why I say it's kind of the most difficult or at least boring day of limited offense. Because when you're just dropping troops, then I guess it's cool, you can just watch them. But if you want to do something creative or anything else, not really gonna happen. And besides, there's nothing better than watching 5 tanks hit 1 engine and getting a 39-second time. But with our base, still getting that win. And it's why even with flare, we're still gonna get some other offense like melons. Because flare means you can direct some of your troops, but melons will just all that damage, so we can move them from one side, let them shoot everywhere. And besides, that's what the season's called. But here, most bases that don't have boom cannons should be able to clear. And honestly, not really even doing smart hits, just dropping tanks to one side and dealing stuff later on. In fact, even most bases think you can just drop all tanks and let it run out. In such a long time too, since tanks were a meta, but at least we're getting a little bit of love. But already getting a retreat, so taking that win. And that's gonna give us rank 13, so we can make our first move towards flare. Getting this node, it's really between building damage and troop damage. If you want to go full defense, building damage makes sense. But there's only really 3 nodes until the end of the tree. So having more troop damage, especially later with bombers, sort of makes sense. So in this case, getting 30 troop damage, and if you rank up enough, get that flare. There is another thing to think about, and that's people with artillery. Because if you max it out, most people don't have any building health, and you can only have a total of 50 before the end of the tree. So we'll see a lot of people arting out engines. It's only 5 if there's no building health, which is why at some point 4 engines, we do want to max it out. But as far as getting artillery ourselves, I think it's too short term to really be worth it. But here in this base, it's pretty nasty. Slim chance we're going to get through more than just 1 engine. But that's why our base we have all 4 in the back, so let's see if it works out. Still, we can do the 6 tanks and 2 warriors. Maybe a bit spaced out because now we have a bit more troop damage. So we can do something like this. Do 1 warrior early because want to wake up the hot pot and have a bunch of cannons right there. And the second warrior is going to distract a bit more. But we can already see buildings are dying, well, 30% faster. So should for sure get 1 engine, and who knows, maybe if enough tanks go on the right side, can maybe get 1 more. And even medkits still help out. Maybe not so much against cannons or boom cannons, but all the small damage stuff like mortars, snipers, machine guns, and even mines, sometimes it can be enough for saving those tanks for a little while longer. So keeping them alive right here, especially with all those small damage stuff. We can consider maxing them because not only for tanks but even warriors later on with flare, having max medkits does a lot more healing. Because even right now, might be the reason we're gonna get another engine. That and also the troop damage, because even against other bases with boom cannons, if you're facing someone who doesn't have troop damage, maybe you can get a few more buildings, a few more percent. We nearly even finished that base, but with our boom cannons, getting that win. And the saving grace, at least this week, is that 90% troop mania for this entire week. So our account with no instant training, well, it still sucks losing a bunch of warriors and tanks, but not too many diamonds if you want to gem it up and keep playing. Hopefully, once we get flare and especially melons, we don't lose as many troops. The too bad melons and other proto troops aren't affected by troop mania. Now in this base, it's pretty similar like us. We can maybe try doing like, well, 1 tank can get all these buildings, because the problem with dropping all of them right away is some can split on the right side. And then we'll just do 1 warrior for those other mines. It'll take a long time for that 1 tank, but we don't gotta worry about time. Not like we're gonna clear that base. But while we are waiting, another thing we can think about is whether we want rocket launchers. Because they are an amazing defense against melon bombers. Right now our main concern is other tanks. And besides, sometimes with just boom cannons, melons could die out. Still unsure about that, but we'll see how the next few days go. But here we can drop all the other tanks, because like we see, some ones want to go on the right side for whatever reason. And as we get a bit closer, we'll drop that 1 warrior, really just for those mines. Because it sucks that as those tanks are slowly approaching, 1 shock mine hits like 15 of them. We'll maybe do 1 make it early on, getting a few of those guys. And now just kind of gotta hope. Hope that these tanks can clear enough cannons and bypass that boom cannon to get an engine down. We'll keep on doing medkits and see what happens. It isn't looking too bad, and luckily with our troop damage, buildings are dying. Might be really close though. My favorite hobby is just watching tanks die. Nothing we can really do except just hope it's gonna be okay. Just this last shot right before dying gets the engine down, so looks like we got lucky. And it's gonna be on percentage, so we don't have it yet. But 50 beats 43. And that's gonna be just enough for 14. Still a bit of a grind because there's a lot of people who either have flare or you just lose in percentage battles, so it really comes down to the wire. But flare is our first biggest offense unlock, because now we can direct our troops on nasty bases like us. We can flare on one side, and even on offense bases, maybe beat them on time. We're gonna leave it tick 3 for quite a while, but just some other upgrades, mainly gunboat and medkits to max level. And since flare is only the beginning of our offense, we are gonna stay 4 engines for quite a while, getting melons and again, maybe a hero, but we'll see after that. But here we have a nasty base with boom cannons and even rockets. But now with flare we can go from one side and try to get at least 2 engines down. Usually it's either the right 2 or the left 2. So in this case, looking at it, well, left 2 makes sense, but the hotpot's going to be really annoying. So I think we'll just try all from the right side. Don't really need any warriors because, well, there's no mines to clear. So we're just getting all of them down, killing a few buildings. Even though level 3 flare seems like a disadvantage because gotta throw a few of them, it might come in handy later on doing some split hits. Because then you can send, let's say, a few boats of a troop, flare one side, and as a flare expires, drop troops after it. Here in these bases, I just like always keeping tanks on the right side. So like those dumb tanks that are going to that cannon, sending a regroup flare. This boom cannon is an exception because we want them to kind of go closer. If that boom cannon dies, then there's not a lot that can stop tanks. Shock mines are of course annoying, but we'll kind of let them go. And this is kind of perfect because we got that boom cannon taking damage. Other tanks are sort of being safe. But after that, we are going to do another flare. Because if they hit at shock mines but there's nothing else to kill them, it's not too bad. Here we can clear a few more buildings and hopefully get one more engine. This is also why we pick troop damage, because the more damage you do, especially in the last few seconds, it adds up. So here maybe doing one more medkit, just gotta outpace those two boom cannons. And a small chance we can get even more. So they're killing those mortars, the engine too. And we might just direct target those boom cannons. We can go for this one maybe right now. Hope that boom cannon dies pretty soon. And then once it does, we can try to go for the other one, but it's gonna be pretty close. Only 3 tanks left. So maybe just a few more shots and we'll see. But because it does, now we can do one flare on this side. Is there a chance that we're gonna still finish the engine? Probably not, but this is worth a try. Worst case, you get some damage, and again, battles are often won in percentage. And we'll see what happens. It's gonna be on percentage, but did we get enough buildings? And looks like we did. And I know it's still a really brutal meta, because, I mean, we're running tanks, and we're now fizzling on most bases, which means not getting every single engine. But it is only 2 days of a 21-day season, so hopefully it doesn't last too long. Here we got a base with not a lot of defense. We can still use a flare to try to get a really fast time. Papa is going to be annoying, but maybe doing a split hit and taking all warriors. We'll do 4 flaring this side, and then later 4 for hopefully getting everything else. There's a chance that no one goes to this engine, so maybe we'll just save 1 just in case. So doing 1 warrior, and then a few seconds drop 3 more. That's really to clear those mines right there. And we'll send 1 more flare with 3 more warriors. That second flare is really just to make sure that they go over here. And why is it only level 3? Because now the warriors should split. We got some going on the right side, some staying on the left. And if the timing works out, then we should have a pretty good split. We also max medkits, so that should help out pretty soon. So getting a few medkits going right there. And on the right side, dropping in 1 boat because gotta need it. And doing more medkits right here, especially against a hot pot. And then maybe just saving 1 more for that flame, so waiting a few more seconds. It is of course because of the sort of weak base design, but we're not getting such a bad time. Saying their last flare right now because we have it. And whereas with tanks, especially without flare, would get like 2 minutes. Almost 3 minutes like this. So that's the other benefit of this offense. Flare doesn't just mean you can get more engines on dirty bases, but like here, still beating guys with some other crazy offense. And that's gonna be just enough for 15, so getting that chest. Even though we can maybe keep pushing, it's already been a grind without flare, so just trying to wait until the next big offense, which is now melons. What's technically better if you wanna try to defend those artillery players is getting building health. Because for those guys who do have max art, it's only 5 artillery if there's no building health. Once you get 25, it's 6 artillery. But if you get 50 right here, then it turns into 8. So still planning on getting this, but I know tanks suck, which is why tomorrow we're gonna get melons. Anything else we can decide after that, but see how it goes. And that's gonna be it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.